Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most surprising treasures hiding in plain sight, the Jefferson nickel. Now for most people, a nickel is just spare change. It's the coin you toss into a jar, slide into a vending machine, or get back as change at the grocery store without a second thought. But here's the shocking truth. Some Jefferson nickels, coins that look completely ordinary, have sold for over $1 million each. How is that even possible? Well, the value of a coin doesn't just come from its face value. It comes from a mix of history, rarity, condition, and sometimes even strange mistakes that slip through the U.S. Mint. A nickel that looks rusty, scratched, or even oddly colored might actually be one of the rarest survivors from its year. And when collectors spot something unique, they're willing to pay life-changing money to own it. In this video, we're going to uncover 4 Jefferson nickels that turned out to be worth a fortune. We'll start with a 1966 no-mintmark nickel that looks rough and rusty but hides an incredible value. Then we'll move on to not one but 2 rare finds from 1970, including a San Francisco strike with deep red toning and another that actually circulated in everyday pockets before becoming a $1 million piece. And finally, we'll go back to 1959 to reveal a Denver nickel covered in black shading and scratches that shocked collectors at auction. So grab your change jar, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at nickels the same way again. Let's jump in and discover which Jefferson nickels could make you rich. First on our list is a coin that might look ordinary to most people, but collectors know it's anything but. The 1966 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark. Now, if you've ever held a nickel from the mid-1960s, you know they don't exactly scream millionaire treasure. In fact, the most famous 1966 nickel looks worn down with heavy rust and discoloration across Jefferson's profile. But here's the twist. That rough condition is actually what makes this coin so fascinating. Let's rewind for a second. Back in the mid-60s, America was facing a massive coin shortage. People were hoarding coins, and the mint decided to remove mint marks from all denominations between 1965 and 1967. That way, nobody could easily tell which mint produced what. So yes, every 1966 nickel has no mint mark, but that policy shift makes this date historically important. The specific nickel that blew collectors away doesn't just have history on its side, it has survival. Despite decades of circulation and exposure to the elements, it still carries the details of Jefferson and Monticello, and the unusual rusty appearance gives it a one-of-a-kind look that sets it apart from the millions of other nickels struck that year. So what's it worth? Believe it or not, this rugged survivor has been valued at around $1.2 million in today's elite collector market. That's right. A rusty old nickel that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground is now considered a treasure. It's the perfect reminder that in coin collecting, perfection isn't always the prize. Sometimes the coins with the scars of history are the ones that command the biggest price tags. Next up, we've got a coin that proves not all nickels have to be silver gray to be special. The 1970 Jefferson nickel with the San Francisco S mint mark is already a scarce find, but one particular example stunned collectors with an unusual dark red shading that makes it truly one of a kind. So, what's the story here? In the late 1960s and early 70s, the San Francisco Mint was shifting away from striking everyday pocket change and focusing more on proof coins for collectors. That meant far fewer regular business strike nickels were produced there. Finding one today is already tough, but finding one with this bizarre red coloration, that's almost impossible. The deep reddish tone isn't paint or damage, it's natural toning that developed over decades. Factors like the coin's copper-nickel alloy, the way it was stored, and even environmental exposure all combined to create this rich, dark, red look. Collectors love this because it can't be replicated. It's nature's artwork on metal. Now let's talk money. At major auctions, this coin has reached values of around $1.5 million. And that's not just because of its color. It's the combination of being a rare San Francisco business strike, surviving in strong condition, and carrying that unique toning that makes it stand out in the world of Jefferson nickels. So while most 1970 nickels are still worth only 5 cents, this single dark red-toned beauty has become a collector's masterpiece, turning a pocket change coin into a $1 million treasure. Moving on, let's stay in 1970, but this time we're talking about a Jefferson nickel that actually circulated in everyday use. It might sound strange, but a simple 1970s nickel in circulated condition has become one of the most surprising treasures in modern coin collecting. Here's why. In 1970, the San Francisco Mint was mostly producing proof coins for collectors. Only a relatively small number of business strike nickels were made for circulation. Most of those nickels went straight into pockets, wallets, and cash registers. And over time, they got worn down like any other coin. Because of that, finding a circulated example that still shows strong detail is incredibly rare. The coin that turned heads at auction wasn't mint fresh. It had visible signs of wear from years of use, softened features on Jefferson's portrait, and a bit of flattening on Monticello. But that's exactly what made it so special. It tells a story of real circulation, passing through the hands of everyday Americans before being recognized as something extraordinary. Collectors went wild because this wasn't just another proof or uncirculated coin sitting untouched in a drawer. This nickel actually lived a full life in circulation and still managed to survive in a collectible state. And here's the kicker. Despite being circulated, this 1970s nickel reached a value of about $1.3 million in the high-end collector market. Not bad for a coin that once bought candy or bus fare. This is a great reminder that condition isn't the only factor in rarity. Sometimes the true value lies in scarcity, history, and the story a coin carries. And the 1970s circulated nickel is the perfect example. We started with the 1966 no-mintmark nickel, a rusty survivor from a time when the mint was battling coin shortages. What looked like an ordinary beat-up coin turned out to be worth about $1.2 million. Then we jumped to the 1970s nickel with dark red toning, a stunning natural transformation that collectors valued at around $1.5 million. Staying in 1970, we saw a more humble coin, the circulated 1970s nickel, but its rarity and history still pushed its value to about $1.3 million. Finally, we traveled back to the late 1950s to meet the 1959 D nickel, marked with black shading and scratches that told its own story, now sitting at about $1.1 million. What's the lesson here? It's simple. In coin collecting, value isn't just about shine or perfection. It's about story. A coin can be rusty, discolored, scratched, or worn down, and still become a treasure if it's rare and historically significant. Collectors don't just see metal, they see history in their hands. So the next time you get a handful of change, don't ignore those nickels. Look closely. That 5-cent piece rattling in your pocket could be hiding a $1 million secret. Thanks for joining us on this journey through Jefferson nickel history. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us which coin blew your mind the most. And remember, treasure doesn't always sparkle. Sometimes it looks like a nickel,